Tychonders there, doing another action figure review, and today we're doing a review for not one but two figures from the Batman Retro series from Mcfarlane Toys, and they are in the guises of Alfred Pennyworth and Wonder Woman. Now, you may be wondering why Wonder Woman is here, because she didn't appear in that TV series. But if you look at the top of the packaging, if I just pan up a small bit, you'll see Alfred has the classic TV series logo, whereas Wonder Woman has a Batman 66. Reason being is the Wonder Woman figure is based on a comic book appearance as opposed to a TV appearance. So I'm going to move the figures aside for a moment, and I am going to have a quick look at their packaging. Now, they both come on pretty much the same similar clamshell style packaging. The only difference really being, as I pointed out, is the logos. The Alfred, because he's based on the TV series, has the classic Batman classic TV series logo. Again, if I just pan up, you'll see it. On the back of the box, you have an image of the figure. It's Alfred Pennyworth. And then on the back of the Wonder Woman one, you have a image from, I believe it is an image from that comic book series that she is from. And then you have on Alfred's one, you have an image of the TV series setup that they've had on previous card backs for the TV series line figures. So, and then just has the legalese and the good old basically logos for Mcfarlane and just different artwork in general of the figures. So that's it for the boxes. We're going to get the figures set up and we have a quick look at the figures contained within. So here are the two figures out of their packaging, and we'll start off with the measurements, and then we'll move on to the accessories, and then we'll do the articulation and a bit of comparisons. I'll probably do a few comparisons while I'm going along, but this is the Alfred figure. He does stand just a few millimeters over the 6 inches. I think he's probably just over 6 inches because of his hair sculpt. And then the Wonder Woman is just around the 6 inch figure line mark. So these are not the same as the multiverse figures. If you're familiar with the multiverse figures, you will know that they're in 7 inch scale. These are in a more 6 inch scale figure, so they should be more in line with figures like G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Black Series, Marvel Legends, that sort of style figures. So for accessories, Wonder Woman only comes with one. She comes with her iconic lasso of truth. Now this is the way it comes in the packaging. It's all knotted into a little lasso or into the kind of storage position. There is a little hoop, or I wouldn't say it's a peg hole. It's like a little hoop on the side of her sculpting on her right side that will hold that. You can, if you want, probably undo it because her hands are designed so she can actually hold the rope part of it. But it is her lasso of truth. She only comes with the one accessory. And then Alfred comes with two. So Alfred comes with a feather duster. It's a really weird looking feather duster because it's a solid piece of plastic. It looks like a bugle almost because of the way they designed it. And then he comes with the bat phone, one of the iconic phones from Wayne Manor. When it's on the table, he picks up the phone. Usually I think it was in a glass case, if I remember correctly, and it's the one that would blink red. So it had something like one of these over it, if I remember correctly, in the show. Maybe it didn't in some of the other later episodes, but I remember it kind of being a inside of a glass case kind of type thing. And then he would pick it up with Bruce Wayne was not available, and he would, talk to Commissioner Gordon. And speaking of Commissioner Gordon, it is a nice segue for us to have a look at one little comparison, because I have the comic book version of Gordon. So if I move the accessories back and just get Gordon to pop in, and there goes Alfred slamming onto the ground. So let's see if we can get Gordon to stand better. There we go. Get Gordon and Alfred to stand side by side, so you can see how similar they are. In fact, they are pretty much identical, with the exception of the heads. I even think the neck and suit sections are exactly the same, because they reused, even the heads almost look the same. People who weren't able to get this version of Alfred were using this guy as Alfred for a while, until Mcfarlane announced he was doing an official 66 TV series Alfred. So the head sculpt is pretty good. We'll bring in Gordon later on, but we'll have a quick look at the sculpt overall. As I said, it is the same sculpt as Gordon. Even Gordon has these gloved hands, which are painted in skin tone. I'll show that when I bring them back in. But for the most part, it is a pretty much reuse of that Gordon body. In fact, I believe the Gordon body is also a reuse from Joker. So anyone that had kind of like a suit design, they reused that body over and over a few times. Whereas Wonder Woman, I'll just take her accessory off, is a all new sculpt. So we'll just do a little 360 of her so you can see her. She has the star-spangled briefs. She has her tunic style top. She has a design that is very reminiscent of the Linda Carter style suit. In fact, it is kind of a mishmash, because I think the Linda Carter one didn't have as many stars, I believe, on the trunks. It did have stars, but it didn't have as many, I think. And it is, in some of the pictures I've seen, this area, the kind of tube top area, is slightly different. But overall, it is supposed to be a kind of version of that Wonder Woman. You can even see she has little stars on the side of her bracelets. And she has the tiara. The head sculpt, because it's based on the comic book, doesn't look much like Linda Carter. Let's just get it to focus up on her. You can see it is not a bad head sculpt. It's just not 100% Linda Carter, at least to my eyes. In fact, she actually looks a bit more like Lena Headey, the woman from Game of Thrones. Kind of, to my eyes, maybe looks different to other people's. She even has the striped boots that the Linda Carter costume has, which is a nice look. And then you have the feet, and there's actually peg holes on the bottom of the feet, and she actually is wearing heels. So again, she probably would be, well, she's a bit problematic when standing in certain poses because of the heeled feet, but you can get around that. She stands reasonably well on her own. So with that, we'll move on to the articulation. We'll start with Wonder Woman because she is the more newer sculpt. So she has a waist swivel. Her head is on a ball joint, but you don't get much range of movement because she has a solid sculpted hairpiece. So you kind of get a little bit side to side, but not much, and there's nothing up and down. Arms can go up that much. So she can do a T-pose, or was it the twirl she used to do with arms exposed? Did she do it that way? I can't remember. The arms are on a single elbow hinge with a swivel. Her wrists are on swivel. Her hands are actually open palmed, or not open palmed, but open, unlike some of the punching figure hands. So as I said, you can kind of loop the lasso of truth into her hand if you want it. If you want to undo the knot when you get it and do it into like an actual lasso, you could do it that way. But if you wanted to store it, you'd have to kind of tie it back up into its kind of default position. Her feet can kick forward this much. She can get into a reasonably good seated position. She has a single jointed knee with a slight rotation to it, and then nothing in the ankles. But I do have a feeling that I could be just me being hopefully optimistic, but you can kind of get her in a seated, very reasonable seated position. So hopefully, and it might be something doable by Mcfarlane, because they have done vehicles in the past. I would love to see them do like a clear plastic version jet for her Wonder Woman invisible jet. It would be kind of cool, because it looks like her hands are in kind of grasping positions for a flight stick for an airplane. So it could be a nod that we might be hopefully getting a Wonder Woman invisible jet in scale to this figure somewhere down the line, or it could be just a pipe dream. But she does stand reasonably well if you just get her into her more natural positioning, and she is pretty good. Now on for Alfred. The one thing I find about Alfred is I think he's a little too small. So if I bring in the dynamic duo, bring in Batman, and bring in Robin. So if I just crouch down, you can see Alfred stands just around the same height as Batman. In fact, he looks a little smaller, but it might be just because he's behind the figures. According to sources like IMDb and what's the other one? The Wikipedia, the actor who played is it Jack Napier? Was it Alan Napier? No, Alan Napier. The actor who played Alfred was 6'6", I believe. I think it was somewhere around over the 6 foot anyway. And the actor who played Bruce, aka Batman, was actually 6'2". So Alfred should be taller than Batman. So because it's a reuse of an existing body, he's actually shorter. It's a minor gripe, but it is kind of like a little bit of a nitpick, I suppose is the best way to put it. Ideally, I think he should have, they could have maybe tried to extend the legs at the knee or something, just to give him a little oomph of height, just so he looks more screen accurate to Batman. So we will bring in the the Gordon figure again, because he does have a little issue with standing. My version of Gordon, as you can see, he tends to like to fall over, even though he does reuse the same feet. It's just you have to get him into a kind of more slightly slouched positioning. Maybe that will work. That will work. So we'll go through Alfred's articulation. If you have this guy or any of the Joker figures, you kind of know what to expect. So his head is on a ball joint. You can do a 360 if you want. He can look up a tiny bit. Doesn't have really any side tilt, and it's just more of a swivel. His arms can bend all the way up to there. His arms do rotate all the way around. He has a single jointed elbow, just like all the other figures, with that swivel in it. He has a swivel wrists. They don't have hinges. His hand has a kind of a trigger finger hand, which is quite interesting. In fact, the way you're supposed to use his accessory is to kind of incorporate that into it, so he can hold his one accessory that he can hold in his hand. The other one he can't really hold too much, because his offhand, or his left hand, is a punching fist. He does come with that phone, as I showed. It does have a kind of earpiece thing on it, so that he can put it through a hoop on his hand. If I can get it to work properly, work with me here. So you can actually hold it, but getting it up to his ear is not really plausible unless he holds the whole phone up to his head. You can kind of get him to hold it, as I struggle to get him to do this, but like, he doesn't have the range of movement to get it up to his ear. It looks like he's shouting into the phone, so you can get him to do that. It is nice that they actually have the phone handle and receiver that you can actually take off. I think the one in the Batmobile is like molded in place. Again, his offhand or left hand is a punching fist. He does have white gloves on. I'm just going to bring Gordon in just for a second, because as you can see, they did reuse the same hands with Gordon, which is a really big, stupid, I think it's a silly mistake they did. because you can see those glove lines on his hand. So it looks like he has Wolverine claw extensions where Wolverine's claws would come out of his hands kind of on him, because it has that sculpted detail for a glove as opposed to an actual hand. He does have a waist swivel, but it is hidden behind his jacket piece. He does have a kick forward on the seat, and he has a knee joint, so you can kick it forward and you can bend the knees. He does have peg holes on the bottom of his feet should you want him to stand or on a figure stand. Just depends on what size the diameter of the peg hole is. And as I have it close by, sorry about the noise, I believe this is the Mcfarlane version. If you have the Mcfarlane version of the Batmobile, you can get him to seat in that and actually hold onto the steering wheel, I suppose. I actually haven't tried him in this. He should be able to fit in it ideally. Let me just do it off screen for a second. Let me squidge him in, because he was known to drive the Batmobile on occasion when needed in the show. I still think the Batmobile looks way too dinky, but I'll just try and move things back. You can see he does fit into the Batmobile. That is him fully seated in the Batmobile. He's not actually raised off it or anything. And you can see how high, ideally, people's head should be below the glass. Oops, sorry, you can't see that. It should be below this glass partition. But because the Mcfarlane version of the Batmobile is quite dinky, it is a little bit out of scale to the figures. So, that said, he is quite a nicely sculpted figure. Again, it's a reuse of existing parts. Is he one to get? He definitely would be if you're a fan of the 66 Batman collection and you want an Alfred, a more screen accurate Alfred, and one that looks like the actor. Then it is one worthwhile picking him up. So just for comparison, I'm going to bring in some other 6-inch figures to compare against both him and Wonder Woman. So there's the Andor in Imperial disguise. And then we'll bring in one of the classified figures, which is Destro. Do I have anything else in this scale? I do. Although I think the scales are kind of a bit off, but I do have one of the older Amber collection versions of the Jurassic Park characters. This is the John Hammond figure, so you can see how they all scale up. So overall, Alfred is definitely worth picking up, as is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is a bit more niche in the sense that she didn't have a screen appearance, but she is based off a comic appearance. So, but if you're like a fan of the Linda Carter series Wonder Woman, this is probably the closest we might get to this. I'm not sure if Mcfarlane has plans to do an official Wonder Woman, because he did do a kind of a comic-based Superman, which unfortunately I don't have to hand, but it's also a really good figure, and it does kind of complement the hero line. You can almost, hopefully they might get around to doing some of the other comic figures, and you might be able to get some sort of was it Super Friends style or Justice League style stuff going on. So like a comic style Flash would be kind of interesting. I'm assuming it would be based on the Lou Gehrig style version of Flash with the kind of bowl hat. And I'll have to double check who was in the Super Friends loadout again, because there is Batmite as well, who came with the New Adventures of Batman style comic style figures, which I don't have to hand because they are sitting in the Bat boat and I don't want to go over and dig them out. So, but all in all, these are pretty nice additions to the 66 line. I haven't picked up everything in the 66 line. I am missing a few things like Bookworm, Clock King, and I believe there is something else. Oh, actually, for another comic stun, and I have it beside me, I'll just throw it in last minute. There is Robot Batman in the back there. Hopefully you can see him behind Alfred. I'll just move him to the side so you can see how he stacks up next to some of the other figures. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video review. As always, please hit that like button, hit hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this video and want to see more of my content as I upload. And always, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching my video. Cheers, guys.